Hello there. If you've been watching our services online as they've been streamed over these past few weeks since Easter Sunday, you'll have noticed that the previous Sunday, the 25th of April, the service didn't stream at all. It didn't go live. That was something we were unaware of. We normally stream through Facebook Live, and then I upload that to YouTube after the service. But it didn't happen for some reason. There was a problem. I don't know whether connection or whether it was something with Facebook Live. Who knows? But after the service, we realised that there was no recording made of the service at all. So I wanted to re-record the sermon for you. For those that are interested, we've been following through a series looking at Sabbath. And we are in week 3. Last week we looked at stopping for Sabbath. And the first week we looked at kind of an intro of what Sabbath is all about. And so we are going to be over the next few weeks looking at kind of 5 core principles of Sabbath and what it means to fulfill that commandment that God has given us to stop for one day a week. It'd be a day that looks different to the other 6. And I know that there was a few people that were watching that were kind of a bit disappointed that they didn't able to sort of follow on from last week. So really this is for you. If you missed out, I'm sorry again that your Sunday was disrupted with that, and we'll do our best to make sure it doesn't happen again. There you go, the joys of technology. So we're gonna turn our attentions to looking at this week's theme of rest. And I want to read to you a couple of verses from Matthew's Gospel, chapter 11. I'm going to read verses 28 to 30, so just a short passage, and a passage I suspect is familiar to many of you. And so Jesus is talking here, and he says, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." So as I said, this is a subject that I've felt God has put on my heart as we ease our way out of lockdown. We have a unique opportunity now to rethink and rebalance the rhythm of our lives. Society is obsessed with busyness, and the Sabbath has kind of been blurred into sort of just a day where I do all the bits that I didn't get time to do in the rest of the week. And it's led to many suffering with burnout, and it's been detrimental to our mental, physical, emotional and spiritual health. But the good news is that I believe God is calling us to rediscover the life-giving practice of Sabbath. So, as I said, last week we looked at what it means to stop. And this week we turn our attention to rest. Because quite simply, without stopping, we cannot rest. Stopping allows us to rest. So when you think about what you do on your Sabbath, do activities that restore and replenish you. So that's kind of a guideline for those of you who enjoy your work, whether paid or unpaid. And maybe if you watched last week, you struggled a little bit when I talked about how we probably have more freedom in choosing what we do on our Sabbath than we realise. You know, after the service last week, I was talking to some people, and one of the comments was, well, you know, I enjoy certain things that might be otherwise classed as unpaid work. I enjoy cooking meals. I enjoy gardening. What I would say in response to that is that yes, you do have freedom in choosing what you do on your Sabbath. But stopping and resting go hand in hand. We need to stop in order to rest. And so to kind of help you if you're wrestling with those kind of questions of what do I do in practice. If you like gardening, for example, is a good example because many of us enjoy gardening. But if you find that despite it being enjoyable, it also exhausts you, well, then perhaps it's not restoring or replenishing you. Is it bringing you rest? So that's how we can start to put into practice some of those really rooted, excuse the pun, things that we do and say, well, okay, this might still be considered I'm stopping from work, but actually it's not necessarily bringing rest. It's not restoring me. It's not replenishing me. It's not equipping me to go into the rest of the new week or to recover from the past week. Now, the irony, of course, is that many of us were brought up to believe that you don't really do anything on the Sabbath beyond go to church. And yet the Hebrew word from where we get Sabbath, Shabbat, is a verb. And so by definition, it's a doing word. If you cast your minds back to high school English language, verbs are doing words. Sabbath is a doing word. It's something we do. But what we do is important. And it takes time to master. So when it comes to resting, what do we do? What does that mean in practice? Well, ultimately, it's about being content in the moment. It's about not striving for more. I wonder how often are you just content in any given moment? Content in enjoying a day without feeling the need to squeeze it for all it's worth, to try and get more out of it. I think often we go through a day and we think, I've got to do this, this and this. I've got my list of jobs to do, my errands to run, the little things that need to be done in the house, and that can be anything from big jobs to preparing the dinner to just running the hoover around the house before the kids get home from school. How often do we have days where we're not striving for more? Where we're content in the day? Often, when it comes to unhappiness, the roots of it frequently find themselves in unhealthy comparisons that we make with others. And consequently, we strive for more in order to try and achieve happiness. It's like a goal that if we do X, Y, and Z, we'll score that goal and we'll achieve happiness. It's unlocked. But actually, as Christians, we're called to lean into Jesus in order to find joy and contentment. And actually, it's a different, longer lasting, deeper rooted contentedness and happiness than we'll find by striving for it elsewhere. But when we do strive to achieve happiness, what we do is we actually create restlessness. We're never content. And of course, this is the very opposite of rest. And so if we're always striving for more, we're always restless. And so we struggle to rest. Here's some few very simple practical examples. DIY projects. I don't know if you like doing DIY. I kind of have a love-hate relationship with it. If I'm in the zone, then I really enjoy it. I like the satisfaction of fixing something or doing a little job that you've been able to do on your own, and you do a good job at the end. You're pleased with the result. But we do DIY projects because, I wish my house looked better. Striving for the house to be improved. Buying clothes is another example. We buy clothes because I wish I looked nicer. How about searching dating websites if you're single? Because I wish I had a partner to make me happy. Now, none of these things are wrong in and of themselves. Well, actually, no, saying that. Dating websites are definitely wrong if you're married, but other than that, none of these things are wrong in and of themselves. But Sabbath rest is about finding contentment in the moment, enjoying the day for the gift that it is, rather than trying to manipulate it into something else. So as you start to reflect and think about what should constitute your Sabbath, if you like, an in and out list, things, here's the okay list, here's the stuff that actually, no, I'm not going to do this on Sabbath. I'm saying this to help you filter out what should go in each list. Are these things about striving for more, or do they lead you towards contentment in the moment? Now, Peter Scazzero, who is an American pastor and author, has written and researched patterns of Sabbath quite extensively. And he says that to rest is to be aware of our lives and to find joy in where we are at right now. I'll say that again. To be aware of our lives and to find joy in where we're at right now. Now that could be a meal or drinks with friends. We might find it through a walk on the beach or a bike ride along the Broads. We might find it through sitting in the garden and reading a book or a newspaper. Excuse me. It could be found simply in your comfy chair at home doing the crossword or the Sudoku. The options are almost limitless, and you need to think about what that means for you in practice. But ensuring that we do practice rest on the Sabbath will transform the rest of our week. It's the incredible thing about practicing Sabbath is that it's like a domino effect, because it affects the other 6 days of our week. It ensures that this spirit of restfulness, literally full of rest, goes with us into Monday and Tuesday. I'm assuming if we have a Sabbath on a Sunday. And do you know what? When the week gets a bit tough, or when we start to tire out, maybe you've got a busy week, maybe work is stressful, and we begin to feel the strain, it's the thought that actually in just a few days we'll get Sabbath rest again that will see you through until the end of the week. It's kind of like a bit of an injection of adrenaline to say, yeah, do you know what? Bash, I've got 3 days left and then I get a day of rest. Then I get Sabbath. 2 days, 1 day, tomorrow is Sabbath. And I can be refilled. I can be restored. Walter Brueggemann, the theologian, says that people who keep the Sabbath live all 7 days differently. And you know what? That sounds good to me. If rest and stopping is part of my regular rhythm of life, and that's going to affect the other 6 days, brilliant, in a positive way. So what I want to do now in the time that we have left is to spend some time uncovering the secret of rest. How do we make this a reality? What does it take in order to achieve rest? Well, this takes us back to the words in our passage from Jesus. Because to rest on the Sabbath is to rest the Jesus way. Nothing else suffices. We rest the Jesus way. And to explain resting the Jesus way, I've just got 2 points to share with you. And if you're the kind of person that takes notes, and I do encourage you to do that, I think it's a healthy thing to do, because so much of what we listen to in sermons we just forget. The first of those points, it could simply be summed up with equipment, not escape. Equipment, not escape. And I will elaborate on that in a moment. And the second point, the second heading, could simply be a lifestyle for life. So we've got equipment, not escape, and a lifestyle for life. And these 2 things can help us to learn how to practice rest the Jesus way. And so what do I mean firstly by equipment, not escape? Reread the passage again. If you've got your Bibles open, have a look again. Yeah, chapter 11, Matthew's Gospel. Right at the end, last couple of verses. Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you what? I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you, he then says. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me. Well, the first bit sounds great. Come to me if you're weary, heavy burden, I'll give you rest. But we've got to do something. Take my yoke upon you. What's he going on about? What does this mean? Well, Jesus, for a start, he's not talking about eggs. This isn't about Jesus' sort of preferred breakfast contents. The yoke is a piece of farming equipment. Many of you will be familiar with this already. You might have heard sermons which have touched on this passage. Yoke is used elsewhere in the New Testament. The yoke is a kind of yoke that a pair of oxen would wear to join them together, to shoulder the weight of the plough, and enable them then to plough the fields in a straight line. Now, you might know that already, great. But there's a reason that Jesus uses this particular term. And it wasn't simply because of the kind of agricultural environment in which he was speaking to, where those sort of metaphors would have been understood by everyone listening, would have been an accessible way of speaking. But a yoke was also a common word to describe a rabbi's way of reading the Torah, and to describe that rabbi's set of teachings on how to live a best life that honoured God. Every rabbi had a yoke. So for Jesus to have one wasn't unusual or controversial, because everyone understood, yes, a rabbi has a yoke. It says, how do you, his teachings of how to shoulder the burdens of life. What's so radical about Jesus' statement is that he says his yoke is easy, that his burden is light. Now, if you're a disciple of a rabbi, you'd probably find his yoke to be tough, difficult to master, perhaps heavy and burdensome. It was a big responsibility, and it required commitment. Just like the oxen carrying a heavy plough, it would be a heavy burden to shoulder, but you'd think, actually, yes, I'm choosing to follow this way, to be a disciple of this rabbi, because I can see that this has value. I can see that this will help me to lead a life that honours God. But Jesus is saying that he'll do the heavy lifting. He'll do it at his pace, but he will do the heavy lifting. And we see it most powerfully, of course, upon the cross. It's where that all comes to fruition and fulfillment. The yoke he gives us is a piece of equipment to help us achieve rest. The yoke is a bit of equipment, it's farming equipment. And the yoke that Jesus gives us is equipment if we want to find rest. Now, you know, if Jesus was to say to me, I'm going to give you a bit of equipment and it's going to be used, you're going to use it to become rested, to help you find rest, I'd probably pick a hot tub, maybe a memory foam mattress. But even the comfiest mattress in the world won't help us to carry the heavy responsibilities that life throws at us. You know, the tough things that weigh us down, that cause us to worry, that cause us anxiety, that burden us. All a bed can do is to help us escape those burdens rather than carry them. We escape them for those few hours that we manage to get our head down and fall asleep. And you know what? Even sometimes the most comfiest mattress in the world doesn't allow us to have unbroken sleep because we're carrying such heavy burdens. Jesus gives us equipment, not escape, because he wants us to live a life where our burdens don't crush us and immobilize us. That kind of life is a life that knows rest. Here's a little gem from the theologian Friedrich Brunner. He says, obedience to Jesus develops in us a way of carrying life that brings more rest than any other way of living. Obedience to Jesus develops in us a way of carrying life, of shouldering life's heavy burdens that brings more rest than any other way of living. It's not saying it gets rid of the burdens, but it helps us to shoulder them. And it helps us to shoulder them in a way in which we find rest. And the secret to this kind of life is all about lifestyle. It's about Jesus' lifestyle, if we're going to be precise. John Mark Comer, who's written a great book about kind of wider issues of rest. It's called The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. You might have read it or heard of it. It became sort of a bestseller. And he says that if you want to experience the life of Jesus, then you need to adopt the lifestyle of Jesus. And that is the heart of what this passage is about. I've called it a lifestyle for life because it's a way of living that brings life, that brings joy, and that eases the burdens that inevitably fall our way, that brings us rest from them. Because the lifestyle of Jesus is all about rhythms of rest. If you read the Gospels, take note of how often Jesus incorporates rest into his routines. There's the regular retreats to a quiet place to pray, to have some space from the intensity of ministering to the crowds. He breaks from his busy life to then just spend time with a small number of close friends and family. He sleeps. I mean, Jesus is a master napper. Remember the incident when he's on the boat and it's the middle of a storm and his disciples are panicking and there's Jesus asleep, having a nap. A Jesus lifestyle is one where rhythms of rest are naturally incorporated. They're ingrained into all that we do. But the problem is that many of us want to live a life like Jesus, but we don't want the Jesus lifestyle. It's a bit like dieting. Many of us have tried to lose weight through the years and have tried all kinds of newfangled diets. But essentially dieting is a simple equation. It boils down to using up more calories than we consume. It's that simple, really. The theory is ever so simple. It means a healthier diet in terms of what we eat, so lower calorie things. And it means exercise so that we use up energy. We're burning calories. So why do millions of people struggle with their weight? Well, they struggle because they want the life of someone who isn't carrying a few extra pounds. They want the life of someone with a washboard stomach and not a hint of cellulite anywhere. But they don't want the lifestyle that's required to get there. We don't want to be hitting the gym or going for a run 3 or 4 times a week. We don't want to ditch the fizzy drinks or the processed food or the sugar-laden treats. We want the body, but we don't want the pain and the discipline that's needed in order to achieve it. And the very same is true in our walk with Jesus. We want to be a Christian. We believe it. But we don't really want the lifestyle of Jesus. We just want to do our own thing and muddle through and kind of rope him in as and when. Honestly, I think sometimes we become too consumed by what we believe and trying to make sure that what we believe is right, rather than concentrating on the kind of lives, the lifestyles that we lead. We're eager to talk about salvation, about the life that Jesus has provided through his death and resurrection. But many of us miss out on the very purpose of it all, which is to live. This life that Jesus has given is not meant to be kind of black and white, boring, kind of dull and a shadow of what our life could be otherwise. It's a Technicolor, it's 4K, stunning resolution. This is the life that Jesus has provided, and we're called to follow him in order to live this life, to discover it. But only by adopting the Jesus lifestyle will we begin to experience this deeper freedom, this satisfaction, this sense of contentment from life. Only by adopting the Jesus lifestyle will we learn to shoulder the burdens of life in a way that, as he says, is easy and light. The biggest sign that you're living that out, if you're wondering, is a rested soul. That's what Jesus is saying here. Do this and you will find rest for your souls. So if we look, does our soul feel rested? Do we feel rested on a regular basis? Are we getting that? If we are, then great. Then maybe we have learnt to put into practice this teaching from Jesus. But for the many of us that don't feel that, there's the call. Do we adopt the Jesus lifestyle? Is it a lifestyle that you want? Now, in order to find rest, perhaps we need to reassess. Reassess your rhythms of life in light of Jesus. Write them down if it's helpful. The things that you do through the week, break it down. Is there rhythms of rest incorporated into this? Do your daily routines look Christ-like? Reassess this place of Sabbath in your life. Is it a day which restores and replenishes you? If it's not, then reassess the contents of the day. Rhythms of rest are ingrained into Jesus' lifestyle, and they should be ingrained into ours. Time out with God. Food with friends and family. A healthy balance of social interaction. God doesn't call us to isolate ourselves and shun everyone around us. Healthy balances of social interaction. Space for reflection and prayer. Good sleep. Making space for good sleep. That might mean simply saying, I'm going to actually set a bedtime on Sabbath because I know I want to have that rest to finish the day with the kind of rest that my body needs for the new week. So come to Jesus. All of you who know what it is to be weary and burdened, and he will give you rest. Embrace his lifestyle and learn from it. And that's how you will find rest for your souls. Jesus has already done the heavy lifting. So compared to any other life that we want to lead, his way is easy and his burden is light. Amen. Encourage you to take some time now. On Sunday, we just took some time to rest for a couple of minutes, just in quiet, and use that time to begin perhaps to reassess, perhaps to just call out to God and say, help me. Help me to find those rhythms of life which are healthy. Maybe it's a call to God to say, forgive me that I've wanted the Jesus life without the lifestyle. I want to be a Christian, but I don't actually want the baggage of changing my lifestyle to fit yours, Lord. Take some time with the Lord, and I pray that as you do, that you would open your hearts and your mind to the Holy Spirit, and that he would begin to minister to you. Bless you, and I'll see you again next time.